Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. This is session number 77. So good to have you back with me on multiple different places. We've got folks on Discord, of course. We've got people listening on to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SignumU. We have people live with me here on Twitter, and of course people in game here on the Crick Hollow server joining me in the lower hall in Bree. So welcome everyone wherever you are and whenever it happens to be for you. It is time for chapter 12 tonight. Can you even believe the progress that we are making here? Session 77, and we're already to chapter 12. This is the last chapter of book 1. We are seriously threatening, I say, to finish book 1 by the end of this calendar year. I mean, it could happen. If you think about it, it could happen. We did spend 15 weeks on chapter 11 in retrospect, so that was a lot. And we don't really have 15 full weeks left in the year, but that's okay. I think we'll be okay. Anyway, I was just chatting with Trish before the class, and I'm so enjoying doing this series with you guys, and this is, because this is really probably the single biggest teaching project I will ever undertake. We're going to have many hours, right, of material. I mean, we could have 1,000 hours of material just as we read through one read through of the Lord of the Rings here together. And I mean, I will certainly never do anything like this again. I will never go through the Lord of the Rings like this ever again. So, but we'll see, and we'll see what comes of it after that. So anyway, just thanks everybody for being with me for all of this, for this historic, I was going to say moment, but of course it's only a moment very broadly defined, right? For this historical epoch, more likely. But exactly, Mad Violinist was thinking of the same phrase there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Catriona, you're right. You should get some kind of something, right? I mean, if you go through this with me, I agree. There should be some kind of certificate or badge or something that you earn, right? If you did all that. But anyway, let's see. So I estimated book 1 would be finished by episode 90. ZS Gamer, yeah, well, we still might hit that. We got a good chance. In fact. Yeah, actually, that's still a pretty good prediction, I think. That's pretty good. Anyway, yeah, t-shirts. Yeah, Sharon, I agree. There should totally be t-shirts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. So anyway, all right. So I'm going to... tonight is, of course, the second week of our fundraising campaign. I would introduce that and talked about that last week. We're still in the middle of our fundraising campaign for Signum University. The one time a year when we ask everybody to help us, help keep the lights on here at Signum University, help us continue to, be able to produce this content, and not only continue, but we're looking to expand in some really exciting ways. I encourage you, by the way, well, for lots of reasons, but I encourage you to attend the webathon that we're doing next. What is that? No, the 13th. So the Saturday after this coming one, on Saturday the 13th, is the end of campaign webathon. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of really awesome segments, and I'll tell you more about that later on. More details about what's going to be happening in the webathon. But one of the things that is certainly going to be happening in the webathon is a State of the University address, in which I'm going to be talking about some of the new things that we're looking to launch and expand in this coming year, including and I would actually even say principally focused upon Mythgard and our free Mythgard programs, wanting to sort of branch out and reach out with that more and add on to, not replacing anything, but adding on to the things that we already do. So that's going to be really fun. I hope you'll tune in and hear about all the stuff that's going on there. Anyhow, so it's, so we're doing our fundraising campaign. As I say, I encourage you to, give if you can. the address as it was last week is right here at the bottom corner of my slides. So that's signumuniversity.org/donate is the donation page where you can make a one-time donation or a monthly donation. Monthly donations, even small monthly donations, are enormously helpful for Signum University, and it's a great way for you to make an even bigger impact with still just just $5-10 a month. It would make a huge difference. So, yes, whereas exactly, Brandon, this Saturday is Middlemoot. So I'm going to be, that's why I had to, of course, I almost said coming up this weekend, but of course not. No, the Webathon is next weekend, because this weekend I'm going to be in Kansas City for Middlemoot, which is going to be great fun. Our regional moot program has been super exciting. I've the Bay Moot out in Oakland is the last one that I went to, of course, in August. The next one coming up here is this coming weekend. In just a few days, I'll be in Kansas City, which means, by the way, anybody who's in the Kansas City area, first of all, if you're in the Kansas City area, why aren't you coming, right? You should totally be coming to Middlemoot if you're not. But whether you're coming to the moot or not, if you're anywhere near Kansas City on Friday night, I hope you'll be able to join us. I'm going to be tweeting out some information about where we're going to be. We're having a little gathering the night before, and then, of course, we're going to have the moot on Saturday. It's going to be great fun. Yeah. And Tony, I am going to be giving an update on our credentialing process to let everybody know exactly where things stand with that and everything. It's been, of course, we're still in the middle of, I was going to say a huge year. Really, we're kind of right square in the middle of a huge 2 years, really. But anyway, so... Oh, CS Gamer, you're going to be there. Awesome. Good. Great to see some people who are going to be at Middlemoot. It's going to be a great crowd is going to be there. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys and to getting to hang out a little bit again. I've never been to Kansas City before, so I'm really excited to get to Kansas City. Anyway, that's going to be great fun. So now, as I did last week, let me remind you of a couple special things that we're doing to sort of celebrate people. Of course, we have, like, if you donate to Signum University, we give you lots of presents and privileges to thank you for your support and your donations. And you can go to signumuniversity.org/fund, FUND, and on that page you can read more about our donor reward program to see all the awesome things that you get when you donate. Yeah, that's it. That's the word I was looking for. So anyway, we have all those things, and I'm not going to review all those things now, but we also have two other special things that I wanted to remind you of that I wanted to do again this week. Many of you have done this already, but if you've made a donation, we're doing a special drawing, which we're going to do the actual drawings and give away the stuff at the Webathon on the 13th. But for everybody who makes a donation, if you just send an email to the email address there at the bottom of the little red box on the screen, donate@signumu.org. If you send an email to that address, mention Exploring the Lord of the Rings, we'll enter you into the Exploring the Lord of the Rings drawing. The drawing, we're going to do three. We're going to draw 3 prizes, 3 winners. They will each one get an anytime audit course, like a seat in one of our anytime audit classes. So you go to our Signum University catalog, every course that we have there available, you can pick among them, and you'll get full access to that course asynchronously. So you get access to all the lectures and all the material and all the readings, and you get access to our library resources and everything else. You'll be an asynchronous student of Signum University, an asynchronous auditor of one of our courses. Normal tuition for each class is $95, and we'll be giving those away. We'll be giving 3 of those away to 3 people that we draw. And in addition to the grand prize winner, we're also going to be giving away a special prize to our grand prize winner for this, and that is we're going to give you an anytime audit seat, and we're also going to give you an opportunity to have to sort of determine a special feature here on Exploring the Lord of the Rings. If you are in game, or if you're interested in the sort of exploration that I've been doing also after our book discussion of the Lord of the Rings online world, we can do a sort of a special, I'll turn on your mic and we'll do a special a special field trip. Wherever you want to go, we can go together if you're in game, or we can just turn on your mic and you can talk, and we can talk together if you're not in game. Or if you want to do something else, if you wanted to do some other topic of discussion, maybe there's something that we've touched on that you're not satisfied about and you want to go back. I know there are a bunch of people who have thoughts like that. I'd be happy to go back and talk over something with you, raise another topic, and have that discussion after class one night in the place of the field trip. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what our grand prize winner chooses to do. So that's what we're going to do now. In addition, I want to do drawings like I did last week. 2 drawings just for people who are here tonight. And there's going to be 2. One is just going to be an attendee drawing. So everybody who's here in attendance, I'll do a drawing. I'll draw the name of one person from everybody who's here in all of our different venues for attendance. And I will pick a winner. And the winner of that drawing will get... The winner of our drawing will get one of 2 different prizes. So I'm throwing an extra prize in this week. Last week we did the book prize, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to do that again. So you have the opportunity to choose one of these 5 books that we were offering last week. My Hobbit book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer / Philosopher's Stone, Unfinished Tales by J.R.R. Tolkien, Sauron Defeated by J.R.R. Tolkien, the next upcoming Mythgard Academy book after we finish Sir Thomas Malory, and then Dune by Frank Herbert. So you can choose one of these 5 books and we'll give you a free copy of the book with a special customized book plate that I wrote up and signed. So that's one prize that you can choose if you win. Here's the other prize that you can choose if you win. The other prize you can choose is 2 complimentary tickets to the regional moot of your choice, right? So if there's, our regional moots have been spreading around the country and even around the world. Most likely there's one that's within travel range of you, and if that's the case, I will give you 2 tickets, one for you and one for a friend, to come down to the regional moot, and we'll pay for that. Okay, all you have to do is just get yourself there, and you'll be our guest for the day. So you can choose one of those 2 things. You can choose the book, or you can choose 2 tickets to the regional moot of your choice. Now, I said I'm going to do 2 drawings. One I'm going to do among all the attendees, everybody who's here in all the different venues. The second drawing that I'm going to do are for people who make donations during the course of class tonight. So if you give, again, go to signumuniversity.org/donate, make a donation during the course of class tonight, you'll get an extra chance to win same prizes, either a book or the 2 tickets to the regional moot of your choice. Okay, so that is what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to do that at the end of our book discussion and before we go off on the field trip. All right. Okay. All right. So that's the plan. So thanks everybody again who has been supporting us. Our fundraising has been a huge success so far. We've already raised over $40,000 total, which is absolutely fantastic. Our goal this year, we need $60,000 to meet our budget. That's the same as last year. We also need another $20,000 to complete the credentialing process. We have a lot of fees we have to pay as we're working through the process, as we're applying for accreditation. So it's not free. So we're looking for a total of $80,000 that we'll need over the course of the year. So we're already more than halfway to that big goal of $80,000, which is huge. So great thanks to everyone who has helped already, but there's still plenty of room for more help. So thanks for that. Okay. And yeah, I'm delighted to see. I'm seeing a whole bunch of people, both in Discord and on Twitch, mentioning that they're going to be at Middlemoot this weekend. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting you. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I enjoy traveling to all of these events and getting to meet folks. There's so many of you that I will, they only know as a name, right, or a sort of a login pseudonym or whatever. And really great to get to connect with folks and really kind of put a face to it. So, yeah. Tony, you can, let's see, we actually don't have the code for the credentialing right now. If you want to specify it, that you could do that. Again, the thing that you could do is just send an email to donate@signumu.org. But of course you you can also trust that we are certainly going to put everything that we get above our budget to the credentialing fund. That is definitely going to be the destiny of that fundraising. So, yeah, cool. Anyway. So thank you guys so much for the support that you've given. Thank you, those of you who are donating during class. And as I said, we're going to do a special second drawing to thank you guys for your donations during class this week. Okay. All right. Let's get back into the text here. So there were two comments from the discussion board that I wanted to bring up. And this first one is from Zephan. I think Zephan is how I'd pronounce it. Zephan 12. And Zephan, I'm particularly grateful for this. Zephan is calling me on something that I said last week, which was obviously and manifestly lame, right? Like the lamest interpretation I've given in quite some time. And that is the whole question of what was Aragorn doing while Frodo was under attack, right? We addressed that last time. And the one thing that I said, which Zephan was kind enough to say made perfect sense, is that it's pretty clear that Aragorn doesn't leave and come back, right? It's not like he ditches them. And so that when he's leaping in from the darkness in the very last paragraph of that chapter, as, you know, Frodo sees him, it's clearly just like into Frodo's vision that he's leaping, right? He didn't leave and come back. He's been there the whole time. But when confronted with the question, what on earth then was he doing during that time? I was kind of taking refuge in the the absolutely and unquestionably lame excuse that he didn't really have time to do much, right? That it all kind of happened too fast. And on the one hand, I still stand by the fact that I think this thing is over much faster than it feels like, right? I think that Tolkien does a great job of... It's one of those scenes that I really do think takes more time to read than it took to act, to enact, right? A lot of the description that, like, especially the description of the Ringwraiths and stuff, right? We get these moments as if sort of frozen in time. The whole thing is really from Frodo's point of view, right? So, we get this long description of the face of the Ringwraiths as they become clear to them and everything. That doesn't take much time, right? He puts on the ring and he sees them and wham, there they are, right? But anyway, so it does, I think, not take very much time, but it is certainly true that Aragorn, who had already told them to, take sticks from the fire and stand back to back, had plenty of time to pick up 2 sticks himself, right? So he's got to be holding the 2 sticks he's got in his hands before they even come into the thing. And so what, I'm saying that, the Ringwraiths come forward and they're described as moving slowly. So Aragorn is maybe he alone is in heroic slow motion, right? While everybody else is in fast motion. So, it's, anyway, I agree. He just didn't have time to do it. This is his first reaction. Clearly lame. So Zephan took me up on that and has some really interesting thoughts here. He says, if 1, Aragorn is already in a defensive position with 2 flaming brands before the Nazgul even enter the dell, and 2, if the Nazgul approach slowly, and 3, if Aragorn's desperate counterattack is to wave flaming brands at the Nazgul, as of course we see when he jumps in at the end, then 4, he should have been able to do so before Frodo is stabbed. And I would say, by the way, this is Zephan's comment was quite long. He's already kind of gone through and provided textual evidence to support all 4 of those points before he sums them up here in what I've put at the beginning of the slide. Even if the flaming brands would not be very effective, looking ahead, Aragorn does not credit himself with repelling the Nazgul. This was still Aragorn's desperate plan in the heat, chill of the moment, and he should have enacted it before the stabbing. In class, we talked about how the Witch King is casting forth his power, but we also emphasized that he's failing to put it to full effectiveness. The Witch King is sending his power to terrify the hobbits and to spur on the lesser Nazgul. But what if he is also casting a great amount of power over Aragorn? If Aragorn is the center of the spiritual resistance of the company, then trying to stifle his influence would be wise. Sorry, I'm just looking ahead and seeing I actually pasted this twice. No wonder the type is so small. Sorry about that. Anyway, okay. Sorry, if Aragorn is the center of the spiritual resistance of the company, then trying to stifle his influence would be wise on the part of the Witch King. We already see that the Witch King's influence is spread thin. What if he wins momentarily in causing Aragorn to hesitate, but then cannot keep hold of him? Which is why Aragorn then springs into action. Additionally, what if the Witch King amps up the influence on Aragorn to keep him rooted at the very moment he approaches Frodo? If so, Aragorn's hesitation, momentary increase of the Witch King's power over him, would occur at the same moment as Frodo's leap to action, decrease of the Witch King's power over him. I think that this is, Zephyr, I think this is totally sensible. I'd also add that Zephyr said that, he was acknowledging, and again, I cut out this bit, he was acknowledging that, any theory about what's happening here is complete. There's no text to support it, right? And for the very good reason that what we are getting is very clearly Frodo's point of view, right? And especially once Frodo begins to be sort of overpowered by that compulsion to put on the ring, and then he submits to that compulsion, and he's got the ring on, and the Witch King, and they're all their eyes are piercing him, and we talked at length about the piercing last time. That whole experience, he is not aware of much else that's going on, right? We notice how even the other hobbits drop out of the picture, right? We see Merry and Pippin fall to the ground. We see Sam, sort of crouching there next to Frodo, but unable to do anything. From that moment, it's again, and it's at that moment that Frodo begins to feel the compulsion to put on the ring. From that point on, he's focused. And so therefore the narrative is, we don't know what anybody else is doing at that point. So anyway, I definitely think that, it seems to me very so I think that Zephyr's reading is a very good one. It's very logical, right? Because again, we have every reason to think that Aragorn stayed there. He didn't run off, and come back. That seems just silly. There's really no reason, I think, even to suspect that. And as Zephyr has pointed out, logically speaking, he can't just be sitting there waiting and now he's springing forward. If he were there waiting and fully capable of springing forward to attack the Nazgul and try to repel them with his will and with his flaming sticks, right? He'd have done that earlier on. So clearly, for some reason, right, he didn't attack right away. And so why didn't he attack right away? Seems to me, Zephyr's explanation seems to me perfectly fair, right? That he was afraid, right? That the will of the Witch King was over, that there was a temporary victory, right, by the Witch King over Aragorn there. And I agree with Zephyr that it makes sense to me too, that one of the things that the Witch King would be doing, right, he was compelling Frodo to put on the ring, and he was suppressing Aragorn. Aragorn was the center of the spiritual resistance of the hobbits, like from the Dell, right? He was the one singing the Beren and Luthien song. We've got to neutralize that guy, right? Clearly, he could start singing another song or something, right, at any second. So by all means, let's kind of get him out of commission. Yeah. Anyway, I definitely think that's that seems to me a very good reading. And of course, I agree with Zephyr that the coincidence between Frodo's lunging forward to attack and crying out Elbereth Gilthoniel and Aragorn's jumping forward with flaming brands, I don't think that that's an accident, right? I don't think that Aragorn, was waiting for that opportune moment. I very much agree with Zephyr. The opportune moment is to prevent the dude from stabbing Frodo, right? So he's not going to wait until after the guy attacks Frodo and then jump in of his own. That's not going to be his plan, right? That's clearly not Aragorn's plan A. So something has to have stopped him, and it makes perfect sense that it would be the Witch King that stopped him, and it would also make perfect sense that the Witch King's resolve, the Witch King's sort of suppression of Aragorn's counter, right, would falter when Frodo attacks, and especially when Frodo calls out Elbereth Gilthoniel. So, Foo, that is my answer to that question. What made him snap back into action? Frodo's calling out Elbereth Gilthoniel would be my answer to that question. That's the moment that he springs back into action, and it makes all kinds of sense. We have every reason to think, based on what we were looking at last time, that when... Well, when Frodo calls out I Elbereth Gilthonio, or when I Elbereth Gilthonio bursts forth out of Frodo, which is perhaps a better way of saying it, that's the moment when everything else happens, right? It's the moment when we see Aragorn jumping in. That's the moment when the Ringwraiths run away. Things are broken at that point. The what power the Witch King was able to sort of enforce over the people in the Dell is obviously broken at that moment. You can obvious by the fact that they ran away, obvious by the fact that again, and that's also the moment when Aragorn runs in. So I would be tempted to say that rather than the fact that they happen at the same time invites the possibility that it's Aragorn who drove them away, right, with his flaming sticks. But I'm actually, the more we think about it and the more we look at it, I'd rather suspect it to work, in fact, the other way around, right? That Aragorn's jumping in with flaming sticks is a consequence of the spell that broke the power of the Nazgul, rather than being the thing that caused the power of the Nazgul to break. In other words, they're not running away from Aragorn jumping in with flaming sticks. They're running away by this from the same thing, or for the same reason that Aragorn has been freed and enabled to jump forward with flaming sticks. That makes all kinds of sense to me. So yeah, and again, it's not to say that it doesn't do anything, right? I mean, it could well be that the combination of the two things, we know that Aragorn's will matters, right? Aragorn's will is very strong, and we know that this is a battle of wills the whole time. This is a spiritual battle from the beginning. If Aragorn, as their sort of, the sort of spiritual leader of the party, is leaping to the attack, right, with his flaming sticks, that's an aggressive move, right? That is a viable counterattack opposing the sort of the oppression and fear that they had been trying to lock everybody in, and may possibly have locked him successfully into. Yeah, I think that's it makes all kinds of sense to me. By the way, I should apologize in advance. So my children have given me this like death cold, like kids do, right? My wife says it's RSV or something like that, which I can never remember what it stands for. Respiratory something or other virus. I think that's what the S stands for, something or other. But anyway, so I've got, I'm sick, and so I might get snotty at some point during class tonight, and I'm hoping I won't lose my voice. But anyway, so I apologize if things start to go sideways during the course of class tonight. Yeah, I know, Amathorn, right? Kids, I mean, it's like, that's it, right? I mean, it's, as my sister-in-law always used to say, germs in footed pajamas. But anyhow, right, okay, so anyway, so thanks, Zeph, I feel much better about that. I began my explanation that, it just happened too fast and he was too slow, clearly lame. We don't have a clear, we don't have any, and again, we don't have any clear evidence of the text of what was happening. Do I think it's possible that somebody, and I forget some who was saying this, I saw it go by a little bit earlier on, but the sort of the counter argument was that Aragorn doesn't show signs of having been locked in the grip of fear, which is true, but then again, he's been freed from it. Right. And it's not just like he shook it off or he got better. Right. The spell was broken by the name of Elbereth. Right. And I suspect, as we were talking about last week, by the power of Elbereth, in fact, which I think I don't see any reason not to think that can be marvelously reviving. Right. So if he had been sort of locked down in fear or despair or whatever exactly was the emotion that was sort of suppressing Aragorn while the Witch King was advancing on Frodo, when that snaps, I would believe that it would snap, especially under those circumstances. I can easily believe that it would snap quickly, not to mention the fact, again, this is Aragorn we're talking about, right? His will is strong. And once that spell was snapped, I think that he would be able to assert himself. And even if he is dealing with some kind of like emotional afterburn, you know, of whatever very strong emotion he had been feeling, I think he'd power through it because he's Aragorn and he's awesome that way. Anyway, yeah. Tarloniel, that is interesting. We do, of course, know. Remember, yeah, Tarloniel is reminding us of the. Remember Aragorn's little PTSD moment with the Nazgul, right? We know, or okay, we have every reason to believe that Aragorn has had his own very negative encounter with the Nazgul before. We don't know what it was, right? We never learned any details about it. But given his, you know, the look that comes over his face and his trembling, as we talked about at the time, he looks very much like somebody who is having a PTSD reaction, something which Tolkien himself would doubtless have seen many, many times from himself and his colleagues who were in the trenches in World War I, right? I'm sure that although it didn't get talked about that much, you know, back then, he was no stranger to that look that came over people's faces when they were suddenly remembering their time in the trenches, right? So, not to mention, of course, the time that he was spending, and that's a little bit later, of course, than his writing of this passage. But of course, I'm thinking he's going to be going through that again with his own kids, you know, including one of his sons, Michael, if I'm remembering correctly, who came home pretty badly wounded from World War II. So Christopher escaped reasonably well, physically, I mean, from World War II, but Michael was in a bad way for a while. So again, he would have been experiencing that there as well. Anyway, yeah. And yeah, Matt, I wonder if that could have been part of it too. Matt is wondering if you know, Frodo's crying out at the moment of his and the Witch King's charge lets Aragorn know which direction to move in. Before then, he wouldn't see clearly, quite literally, where to lunge. Now, he'd still be able to see their cloaks, but, you know, I wonder if a kind of blindness could be associated with that, too. It seems to me very, very possible. Yeah, however it's manifested, and we don't know, right? Because we don't, I mean, it would be kind of interesting to, in fact, you know, one of the things I was thinking about after class last time, it would be a really fun kind of thought experiment, really hard to do, but it would be a really fun thought experiment to rewrite this scene from several different people's point of views, right? To try to kind of get a better understanding of what was going on here. I would love to. So basically, the book gives us this story from Frodo's point of view, this encounter from Frodo's point of view. It would be really interesting to rewrite this scene from the Witch King's point of view, from like Joe Nazgul's point of view, right? From Sam's point of view, from Aragorn's point of view, because it would doubtless, the whole thing would not only feel very different, but look very different, I think, to all of them. And I think that's, yeah, Fourth Dauntless said that we did suggest that they're all subject to the Black Breath, which we know affects Merry's sight. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, I think it would be really cool, actually, to do that as a kind of project, just to kind of explore. And obviously, it's all non-canonical. We don't know for sure exactly what was happening from their point of views, but we can kind of put some things together, I think, and I think that would be interesting. Crownless asks, do I think Tolkien did that? Well, I'm not saying I'm not saying he didn't. One thing I will say about this is that this is one of those moments, and there are many of them, but this is one of those moments which emerged almost perfectly the very first time he wrote it. The very first time he got to this scene, the details of this are almost nothing has changed, right? I mean, it's not quite word for word. He made a couple changes here and there of a particular expression, but this scene in almost entirely its final form emerged the very first time he wrote it. That's not always true by any stretch with Tolkien stuff in The Lord of the Rings, but it happens. There are some scenes that just kind of boom, you know, he discovers them and they're there, and that's it, right? That's the thing. This is one of those. So did he ever think about it from other point of views? Crownless, I think he might well have done, but there's certainly nowhere else that he ever sort of wrote that, right? Because this is the version of the attack under Weathertop. Yeah. But anyhow, okay, cool. Again, sorry for the tiny type, because I didn't even notice that I double tapped the paste button there. My apologies. Okay, second one. And this is from Evil Dr. Cannon. Thanks for this too. So anyway, thanks Zephan for pointing that out. That was great. Now, Evil Dr. Cannon says he was pointing out before this that he had just been listening to the Return of the Shadow class from the Mythgard Academy, where we were talking about this scene, and he was noticing that Frodo's sword is gleaming red, like the red light like a firebrand from Frodo's sword is there in that very first writing of this scene, and yet the whole provenance of the sword and the concept of the old war between Angmar and Numenor is and Arnor totally not even on the radar screen yet. Like, that history doesn't exist in Tolkien's mind. So Tolkien's sword is glowing like a firebrand essentially before Arnor is invented, right? Forget Angmar. Arnor isn't even invented by the time Frodo's sword is already glowing red like a firebrand, right? So anyway, okay, he says, it's clear that many of Tolkien's themes and descriptions have remained in essentially the same state as when they were first written, but are recontextualized as the manuscript has undergone revisions. And that is very much Tolkien's procedure, his favorite MO. He would rather not change his text. He would rather take that same text and put it in an entirely new context, so now it means something completely different. This always kind of blows my mind. I don't think I quite think that way. If I were doing it myself, I'd have rewritten the passage, right? But no, Tolkien keeps as much of the passage as he can, but by taking those same words, right, those same sentences, and putting it in a new context, he has this knack of completely transform. Like, it all works perfectly in a totally new context, meaning something completely different now. How he did it so well and so often, I don't know, but that's definitely his method. Anyway, okay, going on. He says, however, I don't know how much weight should be given to the context surrounding the passages in the early versions when trying to interpret the published text. For example, the description of Frodo's barrow blade while he's wearing the ring is that it flickered red as if it was a firebrand. We talked about the potential reasons for this, including the fact that the intention and will of the blade's maker went into the crafting of it, which sounds eerily similar to the crafting of the One Ring now that I think about it. Yes, exactly. Same kind of process. However, that description of the sword predates any notion of it being made during the war with Angmar. I assume we should simply accept Tolkien's retcons without overly weighting the history surrounding the earlier context when such retcons are explicit. However, how should we handle the interpretation of passages that don't have an explicit retcon? Great question. And the key word there, Evil Dr. Cannon, is explicit, right? Explicit retcon, because this is another tricky thing, right? This is a Christopher Tolkienism, right? He points this out on many occasions during his commentary on the history of Middle-earth, all of the different history of Middle-earth books, and that is, just because something is not included in a later version, like if he cuts it from one version and doesn't say that in the later version, that doesn't mean necessarily that he's rejected that idea, right? So, sometimes he's not referring to it. He takes out the reference to it in the text, but that doesn't mean that he's decided against the idea. It might still exist. He just doesn't say it explicitly now. Or it could represent an actual change of idea. But by itself, its absence in a later text doesn't prove that Tolkien actually changed his mind. And so, Evil Dr. Cannon, I would say that a kind of a corollary of that doctrine, right, applies in this kind of a situation, right? Just because Tolkien does not explicitly retcon a passage doesn't mean that the retcon is inappropriate, right? So, okay, so oops, yeah, sorry, thanks, Amawi. Okay. The main thing that I would say here is it's easy to get too worried, too worked up, in a sense, about the earlier context. Like, it's super useful. The reading the earlier drafts and sort of seeing how the story came about is fascinating all by itself. Just to sort of see how it emerged and to learn more about Tolkien's process and to kind of get to know the story as it grows. It always gives me a much greater respect for the work that Tolkien did, and a kind of amazement when you actually see it working. CJK Rowling, it's cooler when you have to go back and change things and the story doesn't end up in the place where you thought it was going to go, right? That's actually cooler than knowing in advance everything that's going to happen. I wish I'd been able to have that talk with her like 10 years ago, but whatever. Point is, it's pretty cool to see that stuff emerging with Tolkien. Now, how useful are all of those things from an interpretive standpoint? How much should we rely on them? Because Evil Dr. Canon is completely right. And this is a really great example of the kind of retcon that he does. What was in his head the first time? Like when Frodo's sword glows red, flickers red like a firebrand, in the very first draft of this scene, which, as I said, was almost exactly the same as this. What did he mean? What was he thinking? Why on earth is Frodo's sword flaring red, right? We don't know. We have no idea. He doesn't explain that. And I find it kind of hard to explain from the text. If I had to make a complete stab, right? If I had to make a stab based on that first text alone and what we've gotten from the thing before that, I would actually think it is a manifestation of, it's a manifestation of the power of the Witch King, right? So like Frodo is holding up his sword and like the Witch King is like sort of opposing him. I think it's maybe it's a manifestation of Frodo's will, but I kind of doubt it. I think it might be the Witch King's power. I'm not really sure. But there's no reason to really think that was like a magic sword at that point. It's possible that it's just like happens to be for some reason as a yet undisclosed magic sword, but we get nothing from the text there to suggest that. Anyway, so, okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So, but of course that same description, right? That same description, is utilized by Tolkien in this final draft, right? But it has a whole new meaning, right? He's given it an entirely new context. So I had a request to define retcon, which is really, I don't want to use jargon and not explain it. A retcon, I sometimes get this wrong. Retroactive consistency, right, is what it's short for. Yeah, or retroactive continuity, right? Okay, continuity. That's what I always get wrong. Retroactive continuity. So what it means basically is when you're writing a story and you've changed the story and you have to go back and adjust things that you wrote retroactively in order to make them continuous with the story as it later emerges, right? Tolkien was the king of retcon because his story changes in so many ways. The biggest, most classic example of Tolkien's retcon is Chapter 5 of The Hobbit. Right, when he has to go back and retroactively make the interaction with Gollum make sense, because once the ring becomes the Ring of Power, right, with all of the abilities that it has, then there's no way that the story would end up the way it did in the original publication of The Hobbit, where he was perfectly willing and fully intending to just hand it over as a prize when Bilbo won the riddle game. That's no longer possible. So he has to make some changes in order retroactively to make it continuous with the story as it has gone on to be developed. Anyway, retcon as a useful sort of verb. It's interesting because, of course, neither word is a verb, and yet the acronym from those two, not acronym, but the sort of shortening of those two words is used as a verb. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, okay. Hang on just a second. I got to attend to something here. Hang on a second. Blech. Okay. Sorry, having some issues here. Literally. Okay, we're good. Okay, so anyhow, but again, back to Evil Dr. Cannon's specific question. How should we handle the interpretation of passages that don't have an explicit retcon? Do we go... So when we don't have an explanation, so again, we do get one for the Firebrand, right? With the whole context of Angmar and everything else. We get an explanation. There are some passages that we don't. So the question is, do we go, is it best to go back to the earlier drafts, right? Is it best to go back to the Return of the Shadow stuff and say, okay, well, what do we know from it there? And can we apply that forward? Personally, I think that's risky. I think it's risky because so many things change. I think that what we're best to do is to explain it from the context of the final story, not from the original. Sometimes the original can kind of give us clues, because sometimes he spells some things out there which maybe haven't changed, right? Maybe haven't changed, which we can then bring to and weigh in consideration with the published text. But to me, that second step is the more important one. Weighing the idea from the early text. Does it fit? Does it still work within the context of the story as it develops into its final form? And if it doesn't, then I leave it aside. I don't think that the earlier stuff can kind of trump that later stuff. Say, well, he does give an explanation in the early stuff. He doesn't give an explanation in the later stuff. So even though the early explanation doesn't seem to fit in all ways, that's probably it. No, I wouldn't do that. If it doesn't fit, I would reject it, right? Better, I think, to speculate logically based on the story that we do get in the published text, rather than sort of force an early one forward. But anyway, yeah. Oh yeah, and no worries, Brandon. I'm sure I'll be better by this weekend, right? I'm almost guaranteed to be non-contagious by the time I get to Kansas City this weekend. So no worries. I'm going to try not to bring my contagion to the middle of the country there. Yeah. Cool. So let's see. So Matt says, I think we should consider another approach to Tolkien's approach. He may have written the scene and found himself writing that the sword flickered red, prompting him to ask himself why it might glow red, and then go off to invent the story. That pattern would fit his language invention, which required him to find justifications for linguistic change. And indeed, Matt, we see many examples of that kind of thing, right? Where something will come. I mean, of course, that's true of even the biggest things, like the Black Rider, coming into the picture in the Three's Company chapter, right? And him being like, okay, who's the dude on the black horse, and what on earth is he doing here? I have to figure that out right now. I have to discover the explanation for this. I think it's very possible that he could not have, if you had pinned him down, right, and we're like, okay, hey, so Tullers, level with us. Why was the sword glowing red? It may well be that his answer would be, I really didn't know. I was writing the scene and it seemed like his sword was glowing red. And yes, if indeed that was part of that is in fact the seed of the entire Angmar story, right? If that's true, that wouldn't surprise me a lick, right? We see that kind of thing happening a lot with Tolkien's words. So, yeah, cool. Exactly, yeah. Wheelwriter, that's exactly it. Tolkien often said that he waited to find out what happened. I mean, it's, and now I have to go find out that was one of his methods, right? Yeah, definitely. One last brief thought here. I wanted to respond. Lincoln was talking about sort of it's being cooler to sort of see things, to be kind of blindsided with things on the first reading. Totally. I would never, ever suggest that anyone should start reading The Lord of the Rings with The Return of the Shadow, right? I would only ever recommend The Return of the Shadow and The Treason of Isengard and The War of the Ring, that history of The Lord of the Rings series, to people who not only have read The Lord of the Rings, but who know it pretty well. once you know it, once you've had the full experience, not only of reading it for the first time, but of reading it and rereading it and rereading it, so that you've already had sort of many different layers of reaction to it, and have a really close familiarity with the text, then if you go and read the earlier stuff, it's really mind-blowing, and it really helps you if you can, because I think it's super important to be able to kind of hold the published text in your head, you know, as you're going through and reading those earlier passages. That's where you really notice stuff. If you don't have that, you're not gonna notice a lot of you're gonna be really confused by a lot that's going on. So I don't think that element of sort of seeing how this story grew should be anything of a part of the early stages of anyone's relationship with the Lord of the Rings. Anyway, yeah, cool. Anyway, so I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. Hey, I've got an idea. Let's start chapter 12, right? Because we're reckless that way. Because it's only been like an hour into class. I think, now seems a good time to start our discussion. Okay. When Frodo came to himself, he was still clutching the ring desperately. He was lying by the fire, which was now piled high and burning brightly. His 3 companions were bending over him. "What has happened? Where is the Pale King?" he asked wildly. They were too overjoyed to hear him speak to answer for a while, nor did they understand his question. At length he gathered from Sam that they had seen nothing but vague shadowy shapes coming towards them. Suddenly, to his horror, Sam found that his master had vanished, and at that moment a black shadow rushed past him, and he fell. He heard Frodo's voice, but it seemed to come from a great distance, or from under the earth, crying out strange words. They saw nothing more until they stumbled over the body of Frodo, lying as if dead, face downwards on the grass with his sword beneath him. Strider ordered them to pick him up and lay him near the fire, and then he disappeared. That was now a good while ago. Okay. When Frodo came to himself, that, by the way, is, of course, very close to the first line of another chapter, right? Very close to the opening sentence of chapter 18 of The Hobbit, right? When Bilbo came to himself, he was literally by himself, right? So there is a similar, so Brandon, I agree, that sense that like Frodo's been out of commission for a while. Now he's not been out of commission for as long as Bilbo was, though of course he's not been concussed, so that helps. Anyway, okay. So Frodo comes to himself. He does seem to have blacked out. I mean, we know that he knew no more, right? I don't think an enormous amount of time has passed, but it does seem, based on their reactions, they were too overjoyed to hear him speak to answer for a while, right? And then the description that they stumbled over his body, right, lying as if dead. Strider ordered them to pick him up and to lay him near the fire, and then he disappeared. So all that we know has happened, right, is that is since the flight of the Nazgul, is that they found Frodo's body. Aragorn tells them to bring it back to the fire, and they apparently have thrown more wood on the fire, right? Or, as Gandalf will say later in the book, fling fuel on the fire, one of my favorite alliterative exclamations of Gandalf. They have apparently flung fuel on the fire, and it's now burning more brightly than before. But all that needn't take all that long, right? I mean, they were alarmed and they didn't know where Frodo was, but they found his body wasn't far. He didn't go a great distance, right? So I can't imagine it took him a terrible long time to discover Frodo's body. And then they moved him, and then the scene that we get, with all 3 of them bending over him, it's possible that he's been unconscious for a couple hours, but I kind of doubt it. It kind of sounds like it's only been a few minutes, really, because they're still like urgently bending over him. You think if it had been a couple hours, they would be like nervously sitting nearby or something like that, right? It almost looks like they're still trying to rouse him. We're told it was a good while ago that he left. I agree, but Erocheb, exactly, that's the Hobbit's perspective, right? And they're scared and they don't know what's going on. I would think if he's been gone even for like 10 minutes, that's would feel like a good while to them under these circumstances, right? When like they've just been attacked, for all they know, they're about to be attacked again, and now Aragorn's vanished, right? I'm sure they're going to feel every single second of their solitude as a relatively long time, right? So I don't think that I see Tom's speculation that the power of alliteration is one of the powers that the ring Narya confers. I can't rule it out, Tom. Can't rule it out. Anyway, yeah. So, this sounds to me like it's more like a few minutes than a few hours. But I mean, I could be wrong about that. Okay, so notice that. So here we get the closest thing that we get to Sam's perspective, right? We did get one brief interjection of Sam's point of view when Frodo was feeling the compulsion to put on the ring, and Sam looked at him aware that there was something going on, right? Aware that his master was in some, he could perceive that his master was in some danger, but there was nothing he could do, right? So we do have that one glimmer of something that was going on in Sam's mind, right? But that was all. Now we are told more, right? And so from Sam's point of view, by getting a little bit of Sam's point of view here, one of the things that we get is a little bit of context. Like, here's what it looked, we got the description of what it looked like from Frodo's point of view while wearing the ring, right? What did it look like from everybody else's point of view? And the answer is not very much, right? Very, very little, very, very little detail, right? Vague shadowy shapes. A shadow rushed past him, and I fell down, right? And then I heard Frodo's voice, and then it was all of a sudden over, and we didn't know what happened, right? That's Sam's perspective. So, I mean, remember, this is not, and never was a combat, right? Nobody, as I keep saying, nobody had to roll initiative in the Dell under Weathertop, right? That is not what happened here. And so anyway, so Sam makes it pretty clear. This happened very quickly. It wasn't even obvious what happened, and he certainly didn't see. Of course, Frodo vanishes too. Almost everything that actually happened was invisible to them. Yeah. So, yeah, Matt's wondering about the sort of kind of blocking of this, right? How is it that the shadow can rush past him if he was crouching by Frodo's side? There are two explanations that I can think of. Ooh, that wasn't one of them, Matt. Matt says, unless, of course, the shadow is Frodo, which would be interesting. I don't think so, because I think he's looking at the shadows that are the Nazgul, right? When he's talking about the shadowy shapes, or rather, when they are reporting vaguely, we don't get dialogue there, the shadowy shapes. That seems to be what they're focused on, right? So I would say that's probably the shadow that he's talking about. It'd be kind of interesting if it were Frodo, but I don't think so. We don't know what Frodo does, right? Okay. You know what I need to start doing? I need to start keeping the text of the earlier passages somewhere on my slide so I can go and check them. Because I often am like, oh wait, I want to go back now and see what was actually in the text there earlier on, and I don't have it on the screen now anymore. Somebody can, yes, Frodo did recoil backwards. That's what I was thinking, Tim Delph. When he's putting on the ring and everything, I think he does back up. So that he and Sam are no longer right next to each other. So in other words, one of the things that we see as Frodo is falling victim to the Witch King's compulsion to put on the ring, and to the fear that the Witch King is trying to paralyze him with, he's separated from Sam, right? He draws away from Sam. And then but Sam stays still. He can't see anybody now, right? Frodo least of all, and has no idea what's going on, so that the Nazgul would go right past him. Notice now, now that Frodo has been cut off from Sam, one of the consequences, of course, of Frodo's putting on the ring, now Sam is helpless. Sam can't do anything to help Frodo against the Nazgul. So that seems relatively clear. Tony, there were 3 wraiths that moved in, but only one of them attacked. We talked about this last time. 2 of them stay on the edge of the delve. 3 of them advance. The 2 others stop when Frodo draws his sword on them. And only the Witch King comes forward. Yeah, exactly, Arden Crayon. It's like forensically reconstructing the crime scene based on the witnesses' statements. It's exactly what we're doing here, right? I feel like we can make a little chalk drawing. I mean, I know Frodo's not a corpse, but we make a little chalk drawing of where Frodo ended up here and everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yes, Zeph and I agree that the separation from Sam, the significance of Frodo's backing away from Sam is emphasized by the fact that they were designed to be spiritual support. They were standing back to back by Strider's advice, right? And that's so I agree. I do think that there is some significance of the actual physical distance that opens up between him and Sam. Yeah. Yeah. Erokeb, I think he was, so Erokeb is talking about, sort of speculating about plan A, essentially, of the Nazgul, right? He says, I'm more and more getting the impression that the Ringwraiths' first plan was just to isolate Frodo, grab him, and void, using the Sir Thomas Mallory verb. Exactly. The stabbing was just a parting shot after Frodo's game-changing invocation of Elbereth. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think plan A was the stabbing. I think he was planning to stab him in the heart and thus instantly wraithify him, right? So that then they would be like, he has, through the compulsion of his will, he's convinced him to put on the ring and thus drawn him into their wraith world, right? And then with the knife, he's going to keep him there. And where they can presumably control him and haul him off and bring him back to Mordor. And I don't think take the ring from him, but bring him as Wraith Slave under the influence of the Morgul Blade and dragging him back to Mordor. That's because he's advancing with a knife in his hand and the hand and the knife are glowing, right, and everything. That seems to be plan A. And I think he's attacking before, so he and Frodo leap to the attack at the same time, Frodo crying out as he goes, and so Frodo stabbed. He was trying to stab before Frodo called out and swung at his legs, right? And, dove forward and, flung himself forward on the ground and swung at his legs, as we talked about the delicious ambiguity of that movement, right? So Frodo caused the Ringwraith to miss with his stab, but I think he was aiming this stab already. And Matt exactly is reminding us that the blade was also out in the hand at Crickhollow when they thought that Frodo might be there too. So that does seem to be like part of the plan, right? That they're implementing both times. Yeah. Anyway, so I do think that this, but apart from that, Erokeb, I totally agree with you. I think that isolation of Frodo that's step one of plan A, right? Step one, to overcome the sort of spiritual resistance, which means separating Frodo from the support, from like the singing guy, right? The dangerous singing guy, and from his companions, and then make with the knife. Yeah. Tony Mead is thinking this is probably what happened to Eärnur. Quite possible. Can't rule it out. Yeah, good. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Can somebody find text about Frodo recoiling? I have a vague memory of that too, but again, I don't have the text in front of me here on my slides anymore. Could somebody find that? Could somebody give me any evidence that he backed off from Sam? I seem to think that he did too, but help me remember. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. No, wait. Let's talk about Strider vanishing. I agree that Strider disappeared. Who was talking about that? Yeah, Milthaliel. Disappeared is a really awesome word there, right? Especially in this context. We've just had Frodo literally vanishing, right? We've had shadowy shapes and everything, and now Strider just like vanishes into the night. Now, he's not disappeared in a, Ringwraithy kind of way, right? But you can understand the hobbits being rattled, right? And Sam was always the least trusting of the hobbits, even back in the Prancing Pony, right? So, yeah. No, there's no mention. Darn it! I was sure I remembered that. No, okay, it's not there. Well, there goes that beautiful theory. I was sure I remembered that. No? Okay. Well. Right. Sam shrank to Frodo's side. But that's still early. Yeah, no, I mean, of course, I remember the throwing himself forward on the ground. See, here is where I'm trying to reconstruct this whole thing from Sam's point of view. Frodo, the last reference we get to Sam in chapter 11 is when he's looking at Frodo in concern, knowing that his master is in some danger, right? We don't know anything about Sam's movements. He found that his master had vanished, and at that moment, a black shadow rushed past him and he fell. Wait a second. Okay, hang on a second. I think I figured it out. I think I figured it out. No, I didn't. Okay, darn it. I briefly had a theory, and then I realized it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because he falls before he hears Frodo's voice. My thought, my brief thought there, which in the end doesn't hold up, is that the shadow that rushes past him is the shadow leaving right after he calls out Elbereth Gilthoniel, but it's before he hears Frodo's voice, so it can't be. Yeah, I mean, the black shadow that moves clearly is the Witch King. No question. It's the Witch King. And we do get it sprang forward and bore down on Frodo. So it's in motion. The Witch King is in motion. Even though Frodo is coming forward, we know it is in motion too. And it's springing forward. That would happen to Sam's perspective almost as soon as Frodo puts on his ring makes sense. Again, that moment is really dilated in Frodo's experience, but it would not be dilated in Sam's experience. It would be this moment of panic. All of a sudden his master's gone. What's going on? Shadow plunging in, right? Master invisible, but I can hear him as his voice coming from far away. Yeah. The only thing I can think is that Sam has not remained still. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, of course, it is always possible, as I think it was Cecilia was pointing out. It's possible that, of course, it's possible that Tolkien just messed up here. He does make mistakes. This would be an unusual kind of mistake, though. And Tom, I agree that Frodo does not step back does seem pretty remarkable. And in line with what we were looking at last time, that moment when he draws his sword, which seems to be a spiritually significant moment, right? A spiritually significant moment of resolution on his part, a spiritual counterattack, as it were, as we talked about last time. So I agree that fits, and I think that's important. Yeah. We need miniatures to play it out. Yeah, I agree. Well, Fourth Dauntless, I don't think we have any evidence that any other Wraith moves other than the Witch King. The other two stopped when Frodo drew his sword. I think that the Witch King is the only Wraith in motion at this critical moment. So if there is a shadow who does any rushing of any kind, it's the Witch King. That I think is pretty clear. Yeah. Erocab says if the Wraiths are approaching from Frodo's side, not directly in front of him, Sam would be between them at Frodo's side. After all, why would Aragorn put Frodo at the front? Yeah. And JJ, I agree. I think that principle could be applied here. When in doubt, assume Sam's awesomeness. So assuming that Sam, in the moment that his master vanishes, if Sam moves, he's going to move towards the enemy, right? To attempt to interpose himself between... remember, this is Mr. Black Rider's going to have to ride over me, Sam Gamgee, right? So the idea that Sam would move towards them... I mean, if anyone's moving, we know Frodo's not moving. We got detailed descriptions, and then there it is. But Tacklevic Aragorn did put them in a circle around the fire facing up, but he also told them to stand back to back, right? So I guess it sort of depends on how we physically interpret the description of Sam crouching at Frodo's side. If we're imagining Sam like behind Frodo or like just down at Frodo's side, like, by his elbow or something like that, then it doesn't make any sense because Frodo is lunging forward and the Witch King is lunging forward. If crouching back to his side is, so imagine, here's what I'm imagining. Frodo and Sam are standing back to back. Clearly Sam is the one who is standing back to back with Frodo, right? And Merry and Pippin are standing back to back. We're not told that explicitly, but I'm absolutely working on that premise, right? So he, if Sam is closer to the Witch King to start, right, the Witch King comes up on that side and Sam is already between him, crouching back to, Merry and Pippin fall over fairly early on. It does sound as if Frodo is furthest away from him. Merry and Pippin fall over. Sam crouches back to his side. But if he's already in front of them, right? If he's already in front of Frodo, then crouching back to his side could simply... Again, it doesn't necessarily mean he has to, like, get behind him. Yeah. Sam shrank to Frodo's side. That's it. That's what we get. Sam shrank to Frodo's side. Yeah. No, you're right. Yes, they have their backs to the fire with their faces outward and they're next to each other, right? Shoulder to shoulder. But again, this is where we need miniatures, right? This is where we need miniatures. where does the Witch King come in? We know that the Ringwraiths come in like a wedge, right? Witch King in front, the 4 others behind him, right? Where on the circle around the fire do they come in? Who is at point there, right? Maybe it's Frodo. Maybe it's Frodo. But I don't know. Somebody needs to figure this out. Somebody needs to draw us a diagram. Can somebody draw us a diagram? Maybe a little stop action film with Lego characters so that we can figure this out. Yeah, Mad Violinist, that's the best I got too. If Sam is facing the initial attack vector, even if he shrinks back towards Frodo's side, the Witch Lord would have the Witch King would have to go past him to get to Frodo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, Timdolf, they do slowly advance first, but the 2 of them stop when Frodo draws his sword. The 2 others stop when he draws his sword. Yeah. Tony, I agree. Yeah. A YouTube video with you and your friends will do, as long as you're clearly labeled, right? Or Tom, I agree, like a football play with X's and O's, that would also work, right? Little moving arrows and shapes, right? Let's sort this out, people. We can solve this problem. I'm sure of it. Yeah. So okay, we'll we'll figure this out. But seriously, I would like to see this. Somebody block it out for me. Somebody map this. Use miniatures, use X's and O's, use your friends and neighbors. But somebody make a video of how this would have gone that makes some sense of this. I think, yeah, Brandon, we could reenact this at Middlemoot. Absolutely. We'll definitely have the people. That's a great idea. And then we'll have somebody else film it. We'll see if we can do that. Annotated combat diagrams. I agree. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll sort this. Let's get back to the text. Whew. Oh man. All this for, what? 3 words rushed past him. Right. Yeah, there was a second knife wraith on the grassy knoll, says Ardent Crayon. Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right. We'll do it. We'll sort it out. Okay. Was there something else? Oh yeah, so Strider vanishing. Strider vanishing. It's Strider has gained the confidence of almost everybody, including Frodo. But also keep in mind one of the things that we've been noticing. Strider doesn't say much, right? And you've got to think that Frodo and there might be others besides Frodo who are sufficiently, of the other 3, who are sufficiently quick on the uptake to notice that Strider has not been telling them everything. He noticed the flame on the hilltop. He obviously guessed what that meant and didn't say anything about that, right? He's been playing things really close to the vest. In part, I think, because he doesn't want to worry. He's trying to manage the courage of the hobbits, right? And not overwhelm them or freak them out. He also doesn't want to say too much before he's... before he confirms things, right? He wants to figure out what happened on Weathertop before he speculates about it. It's clear that Aragorn does not really consider Frodo and the hobbits colleagues, right? He might discuss with Gandalf. Had Gandalf been there, he probably would have said hey, what do you think? I mean, of course, it wouldn't have happened if Gandalf had been there, but you see what I mean, right? If somebody like Gandalf had been there, he would have probably discussed the flame on the hilltop with them, right? As equals, as colleagues, and tried to figure it out together. He doesn't do that with the hobbits because he does not seem to regard the hobbits as colleagues, which seems perfectly legit, right? Perfectly sensible. These are noobs, right? These hobbits are not. What are they going to be able to contribute to this discussion? And in any case, it's his job to shield them and to protect them, not to draw on them as a resource, right? Exactly. He is their guide, not their friend, right? And certainly not exactly their peer. They are more like his charges. Yes, exactly. There's even an almost, I wouldn't go so far as a kind of parental relationship, but it's closer to that than to peers, I think. Yeah, and Brandon, that's exactly what I was thinking of. We do see Aragorn and Gandalf interacting with each other on a different level even than they do the rest of the members of the Fellowship of the Ring when we get there and the ring goes south. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Fourth Dauntless says, still, if you've got some panicky travelers in your charge, it's probably a good idea to explain where you're going before you disappear in the middle of the night, especially when they know there are hideously deadly enemies right immediately in the vicinity, right? Totally agree, Fourth Dauntless. I think that Aragorn is slipping here. I think it was not wise of Aragorn to have jumped and run off without even mentioning where he was going, and I'd tell him that to his face, right? In fact, hey, I wonder, could that even be evidence that Aragorn himself is not perhaps in the clearest frame of mind at this particular... I'm not saying that he's not leaving under his own power or anything, but again, like, you know, did he cover all his bases? No, I don't think he covered all his bases. As Boomful says, "Hey, Mister, put on the ring in the public room. What do you think?" Yeah, exactly. Right. He is. The hobbits have a long ways to go to earn enough respect from him for him to treat them as equal colleagues. Is this another one of Aragorn's classic ill choices? No, I don't think it is. This is an oversight, not like I have to choose, and am I going to choose the right way or not? But yeah, I mean, I think that he's. His actions are sort of imperfect here, which is, you know, I mean, come on, right? Whose would be under the circumstances? And even, of course, it's fairly remarkable that he gives chase. Remember the respect that he showed to Merry when you know, Merry is like, so I followed him, and he's like, dude, seriously? And he compliments him. He says, you have a stout heart, right? But it was foolish. Well, obviously, the stoutness of his heart is kind of on another level here, right? While Frodo's unconscious and everybody else is freaking out, you know, he's like, I'm going to go track them and find out where they are, right? And he's going to go off into the darkness 1-on-5 in order to, like, follow them, chase them. I'm not 100% sure exactly what his plan is, but he's gonna be out there doing it, not just sitting back around the fire singing another song or something like that. Yeah, he's just gonna give chase with his pointed sticks. That's exactly it. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Aswin's Compass says, for the moment, Aragorn is more like what I'd do alone than, oh, right, escort mission. Yeah, exactly. Leaving your charges behind, possibly not the best thing for him to do here. But yeah. Ericab is imagining Aragorn charging the Wraiths and screaming like Han Solo. Not the screaming, but apart from that, this is almost the equivalent. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's true, Tom. You can't rule out the fact that he might have had an apple in his pocket. So you can't say that Aragorn is totally unarmed, right? Maybe Sam shared. That's quite possible. Yeah. No, Milthalio, I agree. It is easy to think of Aragorn as being like totally unfazed by what's going on. But yeah, I'm sure that he is rattled. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay. Hey, let's do a second slide. Why not? Sam was plainly beginning to have doubts again about Strider, but while they were talking he returned, appearing suddenly out of the shadows. They started, and Sam drew his sword and stood over Frodo, but Strider knelt down swiftly at his side. "I am not a Black Rider, Sam," he said gently, "nor in league with them. I have been trying to discover something of their movements, but I have found nothing. I cannot think why they have gone and do not attack again. But there is no feeling of their presence anywhere at hand." Okay. Tony, I knew you would wish to second Tom's point about chasing them without a sword. I was talking about you. I don't know if you've caught up from the classes that you missed or not, but I was talking about you, like the class before last or something, when we were talking about firebrands in their hands and not having weapons and whether or not maybe he could use the shards of Andúril or something. We had a brief little... But anyway, yeah, no, Tony, I was remembering your strong objection to Strider going about with no primary weapon. But anyway, Crownless, you're absolutely right. Aragorn doesn't think the fight's over, right? When he's going off, he's not pursuing. He's trying to see if they're going to be coming back. They fled. He can see that they fled, right? They ran off. Are they leaving, or are they just retreating? And are they going to come back? That's what he goes to discover, apparently, right? And Zephin, very good. Zephin says, good on you, Sam, for drawing your sword when you think a Nazgul has returned. Another stout heart. Yes, here he is very emphatically putting himself between Frodo and danger. The very fact that he... the very fact that he draws his sword, right, on who he might think is a Black Rider, right? All of a sudden, this spectral figure appears out of the shadows, right? And Sam's instinct is to draw his sword and stand over his master, rather than to run away. And yes, Tom, exactly. Aragorn does know which conclusion Sam is going to jump straight to, right? Sam doesn't have to say anything, right? And notice that Strider doesn't. One of the things that's most interesting to me about Strider here, he doesn't act. He doesn't react to Sam's drawing his sword, right? He doesn't put his hands up, right? But move slowly in, it's okay, Sam, don't hit me. He just ignores Sam and he kneels down, which I think is important, actually. It's not only brave of him, but I think it's one of the most reassuring things that he could do, right? I know, he basically gives himself up to Sam. If Sam wanted to stab him, he could have, right? And I think that is a kind of a disarming move by Strider here. What he does is I'm not going to let you and your naked sword keep me from kneeling down and giving some medical attention to Frodo, right? If you want to stab me, you can go ahead, right? That seems to be what Strider's body language says, and that seems to win over Sam. I'm not saying completely, right, but you can tell on account of how Sam doesn't stab him, right, that it seems to work there. Yeah, no, I agree that Ericab says, I got the impression that Sam did know it was Strider and drew his sword for that reason. Yeah, no, I think he draws his sword knowing that it's Strider. But again, they all start, right? They started and Sam drew his sword, right? That's clearly an impulsive move that he makes as soon as anybody appears on the edge of the dell. But I agree that completing the motion of drawing the sword, and then especially of standing over Frodo, is doubtless completed after he has processed that it's Strider who comes back. Totally agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Strider's body posture, even before his gentle words, helps to reassure Sam, right, that he is not meaning any harm to Frodo. I am not a Black Rider, nor in league with them. I have been, and then he explains, where did I go, right? Why did I leave just then? I cannot think why they have gone and do not attack again, but there is no feeling of their presence anywhere at hand. Yeah, it's true, Brandon. There is a little bit of an ambiguity about the pronoun. Sam knelt down swiftly at his side. I think it's Frodo is the antecedent of the his there. It could be Sam, of course, theoretically. But I think it's Frodo, and I think it's because he's in the process of examining Frodo here, checking on Frodo. And it's interesting that Strider, that wasn't his first impulse, right? His first impulse is to see where the Ringwraiths have gone because he wants to know, are they going to attack again? That's his impulse number one. His impulse number two is medical attention for Frodo. Right, let's try to treat Frodo, to diagnose Frodo's condition and treat his wound if he's wounded. Anyway, yeah, so that's interesting to me. And again, I think it shows you how firmly Aragorn assumed, as you guys were saying, that the attack isn't over, right? He is surprised that they've gone. And I think that that's an important thing here, right? It's not obvious that they're done. It's not obvious that this thing is over. Strider certainly doesn't think so. Yeah. Well, Aragorn thinks it's kind of amazing Strider's found no sign of the riders. I've trying to discover something of their movements, but I have found nothing. Aragorn thinks that's kind of amazing. Well, on the one hand, I think we have some evidence. Yeah, it is still very dark, Catriona, exactly. We have some evidence that there are things that he's gonna miss, right? Because it's dark. We know, like, big things that he's gonna miss because it's still dark out. So that he wouldn't be able to track them by footprint in the dark is not surprising. What it seems, well, the moon is out, yes, but still, I don't know. What seems clear, though, we don't know. We don't exactly Evil Dr. Cannon. He's going to find, like, physical relics later that he overlooked in the dark, right? Similarly, notice it doesn't say anything about tracking, right? He says he's going to discover something of their movements. I'm not even convinced that he was looking for boot prints, which may just have been overly difficult in the dark. Notice what he says. I've been trying to discover something of their movements, but I have found nothing. Well, how are you trying, Aragorn? Could you explain that? I cannot think why they have gone and do not attack again, but there is no feeling of their presence anywhere at hand. That seems to be the mechanism that he was using, right? He wasn't looking for footprints because, again, when we're talking about Nazgul, it's one thing to track Nazgul after they've gone, right? But to, like, if you're trying to tell whether one's there, you don't track their, exactly. You sniff, you sniff, Jen. That's exactly what you do. Metaphorically, right? He doesn't need to find their footprints. If they're close enough to be gathering for a second attack, they'll be there, right? He'll be able to sense their presence. And that's what he comes back and reports. No feeling of their presence anywhere at hand, right? Yeah, no waves of terror. Exactly. Aslan's compass. He's searching by dread effect, right? It's exactly like that. He's wandering around seeing if he felt anything, and that sounds kind of weird, right? When you sort of say it like that, but yeah, that's might he have been looking for tracks. Crownless might he have put his ear to the ground to listen for horses. These are things that we know Aragorn does do in general, but all he refers to here is the feeling of their presence. And that seems to me, again, when you're talking about the immediate proximity of Ringwraiths, by far the best measure, right? If they're close enough to attack again, you'll know, right? So all he has to do is just do like a few, like a spiraling circuit away, around the dell, to see, like, are they here? Are they nearby? No, they're gone. They left. Because that seems to be the question that he was trying to ascertain. Not where do they go exactly, but when he says discover something of their movements, it's not can I find and track, their course, but rather, can I ascertain whether or not they are here, right? And can whether or not they are here and are still ready to attack. Yeah, exactly. It's like Black Breath radar. Yeah, something like that. I don't think he needs he doesn't need an instrument, right, to measure that kind of, like a kind of a Black Breath Geiger counter or something like that. He doesn't really need that. Yeah. But that does seem to be what he's doing. And as I said, that seems to make a lot of sense. It really does. Yeah. No, see, Brandon, he didn't roll. He didn't roll low on his perception check. There was nothing to perceive. It was one of those lovely moments where, like, the DM just told him that he doesn't notice anything, and he has to figure out whether that means he rolled low or not. Right. Anyway, okay. All right. Instead of moving on to the next slide, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to do my drawing because the drawing is a little bit involved. So what I'm going to do is I've got, is everybody who's in Discord on Twitch, right? If you're not, get there. Open up twitch.tv/signumu right now. And then I figure most of you are on both so that you can see the slides, right? Anyway, okay. So I'll try to do my drawing here. Okay. All right. So let's do the drawing. And I'm gonna, because I've got also people in other places. I got folks on Twitter, and I've got folks in our other interface, our Hangout interface, the Talon, which is accessible for the vision impaired. So we've got lots of things here. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're doing a drawing just to refresh people's memory. We're doing two drawings here. Actually, let me do that first. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, no, that's not what I want. Need that over here. Okay. Okay. Oh, awesome. We've got 99 people here tonight. Man, I'm going to need more than my percentile dice. Okay, no problem. All right. So as I said, I'm going to do two drawings, one of which is going to be a drawing from among people who have donated tonight, and one of which is going to be among everybody who's attending. And the prize is going to be, you can have your choice between either one of our free books with a custom signed book plate that we'll give to you. So you can choose one of these 5 books with a custom book plate, or you can choose a pair of free tickets to the regional moot of your choice. If we are coming to somewhere near you, and they're reasonably good odds that we're coming somewhere near you sometime in the next year, I will give you free, as long as you can show up, we'll let you in for free for the day and your free lunch and bring a friend. So we'll get 2 free tickets to the regional moot. So, okay, I'm gonna do. Oh dear. Okay, sorry. Needing to do a thing here. I'm processing. Okay. It's October now, which I'm totally not forgetting that it's October. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. Thank you guys for your generous donations. Let me start with this one. Okay. Okay. All right. And the winner of our first drawing is James Kelly. James Kelly, you have won our first drawing. So just send an email to donate@signumu.org, and you can let us know if you would like the book, if so, which book, or if you would like to tell us where you live, and we'll tell you when our plans are the nearest regional moot that's coming to you, and we will let you know. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, now the second one. All right, hang on a second here. Let's see. Where was that? Okay, how many folks do we have on Twitch? My goodness, lots. Okay, 112 people on right now. Goodness, that is a lot. Okay, so this means I'm going to have to get cunning with my dice rolling here. All right. Rolling 3 dice here. Okay. So. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so Tarlonia, I rolled percentile dice and a d4, right? With the d4, taking the d4 as either 1 or 2 equals a 0 and 3 or 4 equals a 1, so that I can roll between 0 and 200, essentially, is how I was managing my dice there. No, I'm not adding them. I'm not adding them together. See, 2 to 112 would not have worked exactly, because then we missed number 1 exactly. All right. So no, okay, but I got it. I got it here, and I think we have a number which fits within our range here. So now is where I count. So give me a minute here. This is counting face, D-May. It's a little different from math face. I'm not doing math in my head, but yeah, okay. Tacklevic can detect. I'm an experienced gamer. Yeah. I've been DMing and wrangling dice rolls for many a year. That is not new. Okay, let's see. 1, 2. No, I'm not counting Moobot. Moobot, I'm sorry, you can't win. Okay. So tense, isn't it? Okay, and the winner is Singing Fox. Singing Fox, who has an awesome screen name. Singing Fox 1, you are the winner. So congratulations to Singing Fox. Again, send an email to donate@signumu.org and let us know either if you want a book or tell us where you live, and we'll see if we can set you up with regional moot tickets. It'd be great to get a chance to meet you at one of our regional moots. Awesome. So congratulations to our 2 winners. And thanks for that. Thanks for joining me. As always, thanks for making this such an awesome, fun learning experience for me too. I'd say, how much would someone need to donate to get a D&D session for all of us with Corey DMing? Well, we've had a bunch of conversations of different like tabletop role-playing stuff that we would kind of like to do on the Signum Twitch channel, because I kind of love D&D and I kind of love Roll20 too, which would work really well on Twitch, I know. And there's a lot of possibilities, that we would like to do. The problem is I just have no time at all. But yeah, D-May's right. Absolutely. If a bunch of people wanted to get together and make a major contribution, we could do it. We'd set it up. I think we could totally do that. Blue Wizard thinks it'd be less than what we would need for a Shadows of War marathon, which was one of the things someone was asking about during my Lotro marathon last time. How much would you need to donate to get me to do a marathon playing of the Shadows of War? I'm not going to pretend. I think that'd be kind of funny, actually, for me to do running commentary on the Shadows of War as I tried to play my way through it. Yeah, Fort Thales, I don't think a party of 112 would really work. I mean, I have developed some homebrew mass combat rules, but I don't think they would really apply under these kinds of circumstances. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining me. So it's field trip time. Thanks to everybody who's joined us on Twitter. I'm going to say goodnight to the Twitter folks. You guys have been great. Thank you for sticking with me and making some great comments and contributions during class here as well. So thanks very much for that. And we're gonna switch over. So thanks very much, everybody. Bye. Well, I say bye to Twitter folks, of course. I'm not going anywhere for everybody else. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Laura here. I'm on his Ko-fi. How's everybody doing?
Right,
oh wait, they can't answer. Oh.
Okay. Very good. And I'm gonna heroically blow my nose again here for a second. Hang on a minute.
That's okay. I'm sure even hobbits have to blow. You'd be like Bilbo on his birthday. Go, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm not quite at thank you very much stages, mercifully. Like my son who, of course, this is one of those. situations as well where I know exactly which of my children gave me this disease, because the other one and I came down with it at exactly the same time. So it's clear whose fault it was.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, he is much more congested than I am, so I would be very much, he sounds full, thank you very much. So, yeah.
Hope he feels better soon.
Yeah, he's toughing it out. He's good. He hasn't even missed any school. My wife is pretty merciless when it comes to sick days from school. She's like, "Can you walk? Get yourself into school." Anyway.
Yeah, I make it miserable for my kids. It's basically in bed, no TV, no nothing. If you're going to get better, you're not going to...
Exactly, right.
If you're having fun, you're not getting better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to head back to the Harlowegg because we didn't get much of a chance to explore last time. I hope you guys were able to see my really fun discovery, which is that I am now thoroughly... we have confirmed... based upon visual evidence, that the ruins in the Harlowegg are from Cardolan, not from Arthedain or from Rhudaur, which is like an archaeological bombshell, right? Narnian is going to publish this in the archaeological journal of Eriador, because that's huge. But anyway.
Elrond will need to know of this.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so let's head out. Last time I wanted to go through Bree so that we could see the evidence of what a Cardolan tomb looked like before we headed to the Harlowegg, but this time we can head straight there. So let's just go and...
myth confirmed.
Yeah, go straight to the Stable Master and head to Oscaruth, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hamster still running. There we go.
Okay. So I don't really know which way is faster to the south gate of Bree, whether going, up this way and around past the Prancing Pony is faster, or whether it's faster to cross the bridge through town and go the other way. But I frankly find, especially when I'm in Bree and it's laggy, I find it simpler to go this way. Last time when I tried to go the other way, I kept almost falling off of bridges and...
Yeah, although falling off the bridge is a shortcut, actually. But...
Well, that's kind of true. But...
I think we're in luck. I don't see any bands playing.
Okay. Yes, that does not help with the lag.
Yeah, that's always the big one. It's like, oh man, there's 3 bands playing by the Prancing Pony. We'll never make it, man. Everybody get your names turned off.
Yeah. All right. So we will go, if anybody needs, I don't know if, so I hate that when you just lag, and it's not just lagging, but all of a sudden my horse pivoted itself in a 90 degrees when I wasn't even turning. It's just bizarre.
You want a war steed or a regular?
No, regular.
Oh, that's usually war steed antics right there.
Yeah, it was weird. It was completely disorienting.
Still better than buying a ride in Moria.
What can I do for you?
I mean, it's like, if you got a stuffed up head, do not watch a goat ride in Moria, because
I can't ride it at all. I can't watch it. I just can't. It's I think they get the goats drunk. I think there's no other explanation. Yeah, I have really gotten motion sick from that. I mean, there was one night I remember when I just had to stop playing the game and lie down because I was doing so much goat riding that night, and I was getting. I mean, I have a terrible I get motion sickness pretty badly. I can barely watch my kids play Xbox on the TV because
anything first person.
First person stuff. Absolutely.
Back in my Wolfenstein days,
right.
I learned very quickly I couldn't play those games.
What do you want?
Yes, exactly. No, I can only watch my kids playing Star Wars Battlefront for 3 minutes before I have to go lie down. So no, I'm pretty bad with that stuff. But
Moria got full blown migraine.
Oh man, Moria goat. Yeah, that was bad.
Lie down.
That was bad.
Oh, let me turn off my super speedy horse, so I can keep up. All right.
Okay. All right. Have we kept more or less most everybody? I don't know if we had any really low level persons here tonight.
I think we're good. I don't see anyone else arriving. I didn't take a head count. So.
Can I say, so, Chegra, that little pony with the antlers and thing, I've seen that full version many times. I've never seen the Hobbit pony version.
That's what I have right now. Yeah, no, it's cute on a little
It's completely
horse.
Adorable.
Especially with the big booties, the big, draft pony booties.
Yeah, that is utterly adorable in pony scale. Okay, sorry. So let's I just had to point that out. That's just completely precious. Yeah. So no, we're not on Landreval. We are on Crick Hollow tonight. We are on Crick Hollow tonight. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna head down to Harloweg, and tonight we're gonna have a look about. See what we can see from the
archaeological point of view.
The primary ruins. And then, especially if we don't have any lobies with us here tonight, want to head over into the troll area too.
I have many fond memories of that troll area.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh, that's right. You were there for that big slaughter fest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The culling. That was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked the troll area. Oh wait, hang on. I'm turning the wrong way.
We missed.
Sorry.
Yeah. I always do that too.
I was watching the wrong island there.
Yeah.
Okay, so seen from here, it's a nice sunny day, unlike before, so we can see the ruins right before the trees start resolving themselves. We've got some parts over there to the right, and then some parts down to the center. I'm going to start off on the right and kind of sweep around and see. So if this is a what did we decide the adjective was? Cartilingian?
Cartilingian.
Yes. Sort of as a joke. Okay, so if this is a Cartilingian outpost, it needs to be relatively self-sustaining, right? You have to think that this would be one of the places maybe that they would have been driven to before they, so they would have been driven out from here before they took their final refuge in the Barrow Downs. Okay, hang on, let's see if we can approach over here.
Are we thinking terrain-wise, anything's changed? Do you think the water was here before or came
I don't
later?
know. I'm kind of thinking it can't have been, because if we see from up here, most of those ruins down there are all now set completely in water, and it's one thing to take advantage of the water as a defensive issue, but you're not going to, I mean, this is going to be like Venice, but, a fortification. Like, I can't, they weren't like rowing gondolas from one room to another within their fortress.
No.
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
so.
it doesn't look like nice water. Health and safety-wise, it would not be reason to build this.
I have to think that there was a rise of the water, which means, like, was there any water down here before? Is the whole swamp thing?
Let's see.
I don't really know. Maybe
any water would have come from the river, the last bridge in the Trollshaw. Is that right there? Whatever that river's called.
Yeah. One could imagine, of course, the increased water down here being some kind of chain reaction from the upsetness of the water up north of here, right, in Garth Garwin. There's a lot of unrest among water spirits, so it's not impossible that the water table has risen down here as a consequence, as a sort of a side effect, perhaps, of some of the outflowings of the water up there. I mean, it doesn't communicate, obviously. There's no stream between there. There's no waterfall over that bluff or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that directly and sort of mechanically, but just that, the water table has risen, more water has gathered here. Because we know that the raising or lowering of the water level of a body of water is a kind of thing that those water spirits can do, right? We have precedence
Yes.
for that in Arid
Yes.
Lewin, so within the Lotro world. So I do think that it seems likely that this is in fact, maybe it even dates from the time when this was taken, right? I mean, maybe that's one of the things that drove the Cardalangians out of here, was the rising of the water. Because, see, you'd think if it were built, if there were water here, there would be much more on the bluffs. I mean, you'll notice how, up here there was something, right? It looks like some kind of tower or outpost up here. But, across the way over there, where there's much more high ground and what looks fairly defensible, there's almost nothing over there, right? Straight to the west of us. So
Yeah, it's a boxed-in canyon.
yeah, and they built down in the canyon, right? So exactly. Okay.
It also would explain some of the areas in the Lone Lands which seem completely devoid of water, but they have bridges.
Right. True. Yeah, we do see dry bridges, very famously, like that one right past the Forsaken.
The
Inn,
Lorn
right?
Span and a few of the others.
Yeah, exactly.
We got some ghosties and ghoulies.
Yeah, so we get whites here. Okay, yep, so now here we're just getting stars, but again, notice these are all stars with the point pointed upwards.
Yep. Cardalangian star.
Cardalangian stars. This is kind of maze-like. It's a little bit hard to imagine what this must have been exactly.
Yeah, that did. Yeah, it really does turn into sort of a labyrinth, and that would only make sense if these were all rooms with different functions. But
yeah, I mean it's a
maybe
little bit
storage.
Yeah. Now, I do have a hard time putting this one together because most of these walls, they look like outer walls, right? They look like, like curtain walls that you'd have around the outside of a fortification. None of these look like interior walls, really.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
they were supporting walls of upper stories.
Right. Yeah, maybe we're in what would have been like the basement level.
Disease vector. Hang on.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Not you on the floor.
Yeah. No, I actually seem to have caught a disease, which is of course perfectly fitting. Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, you can see even like this kind of you look at this sort of thicker row of stones in the middle here, right? That looks like it could be a mark where a floor once was, right? So that we were here, where we are right here is like would have been basement.
Yeah, I wish we could see better. It's getting very dark for some reason.
It is getting dark because I think we're getting to a spooky place.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lich Factory.
Yes, here's a. Is this one of those? It's the Bog Lord, right? I remember him.
Lord. I played keyboard for Bog Lord.
And he's got his white factory.
Yeah. Ooh, and Mountains of Skulls. Very.
Yes, and then over here we get a goblin altar.
Yeah, this is one of those goblins, yeah.
Are there goblins here?
Well, it's the shape that we've seen in Goblin Town.
Yeah, no, the altar I'm sure of. Are there actual goblins in this region?
I don't think I've seen any goblins in this region.
That's weird.
Maybe the monsters got
wights
them
and
all.
they're trolls. Are they thinking of importing goblins? Is this to accommodate visiting goblins? Or does the goblin totem altar thing that we have seen many times before in lots of different places, does this have some kind of other function?
Could be. And the other question is there are goblins in other parts of the Lone Land. Maybe there were goblins here and then they left or were all killed.
Yeah.
There's some things even goblins can't really fix. Alright, nobody kill this guy yet, though, because it sets off chain reaction. Let's have Corey.
Okay, alright, yes, this is the other guy. Huge white factory. Oh, yeah, we're
Yeah, so that's
He came to attack somebody, right?
Budra.
And then we got the ghosts. And the ghosts, are Arthedain guards.
Yeah, the Arthurian guards who were captured, and now they've been set free. So now they're going to go down the hillside, picking off baddies on their way down.
Okay.
So the ghosts are rising up against the ghosts. It's pretty fun.
Right. And these are Cardoan tombs. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is just like the one we saw in Bree and in the old town.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's back.
The cursed men are mine, no one shall break them free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Free them from Ivar. Yeah, Ivar Bloodhand. He's one of the major guys in the book 3 epic quests. Behind us, look, we got the big scepter here.
Yeah, huge scepter of Illuminus here. All right, an excellent view of that.
Mm-hmm.
Still all with upward pointing stars. Yep. Yeah.
Mirrors the one behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how that white factory obscures the scepter of Illuminus, right?
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, I agree, Tony. White Factory would be a pretty good metal band, and they could tour with Pelvis Fire. That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah, I would have that on my Halloween playlist.
So isn't this... These ruins are the place where these folks have been cursed by Tom Bombadil, right? As I recall.
Cursed by Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, didn't Tom Bombadil? I mean, it's been a long time since I did that quest line, so I'm not remembering. But as I recall, it was actually Tom Bombadil's curse for their betrayal that led to the ghost factor.
Oh, mirroring the Stone of Eric storyline.
Yeah, exactly. Mirroring the Stone of Eric line with Tom Bombadil playing the role of Isildur in that. Yeah, for what happened to the Red Maid. Exactly. He blamed them.
Okay. Yeah, this is... unfortunately, I've only played through on Book 3 like once, and that was with you. Yeah. So I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details.
It was years ago. Yeah. Even for me, it's been a couple years since I've
played it. I'd say it was about 4 or 5 years ago we did that.
Yeah. And I did it one other time solo with my one character who was doing the completionist Lone Lands. And that was it was a little bit more recent, but still several years back. Okay, and this is the place where, despite the fact that I'm just discovering it, this is the place where we started before. See, this is the kind of location you'd expect, right? Up here on this bluff overlooking the lowlands. But again, this is not even over here, is it? The only or the primary, for as we can see, it continued off down onto the...
I wish there was a high vantage point we could see everything from above and maybe get a better idea what it was used for.
Yeah, of the overall... The opponent is kind of...
I think there's a ridge on the side. If we were to go all the way to the side there's a ridge we can look at stuff from above because there's a big bad that lives there, but even then I don't even know if we could see it in this darkness.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. But in any case, it seems pretty clear the ruins down here seem to be way too extensive for the... just to be a mere fortress, a mere fortification. This looks like it was like a city of the Cardo engines down here. Unlike the fortress that they made in the Barrow Downs, right, where they hold up. Notice this tree thing. Remember we saw this in Bree?
Yes.
This sort of rooty, branchy tree thing
with stars around it.
With stars and with the scepter up above. Makes me wonder now. I don't think I considered at the time when we were looking at that in Bree whether this was specifically a Cardolan symbol, but it might be.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah.
I like that interpretation of rather obviously the white tree.
Yeah, and there are 7 stars, Fufu, and the one is down by the roots, right, where 6 are up above with the scepter. One is down at the roots, which is, again, that's really interesting. I still don't. I mean, I didn't at the time really know what to make of this, and I still don't really exactly know what to make of this. This symbol, the tree symbol, and why it's exactly like this, it's not the white tree. I mean, it's totally different from any other representation we've gotten of the white tree. And anyway, it would seem to be an Arnorian symbol with the scepter, right, rather than a Gondorian symbol with the tree. And we don't see the white tree anywhere else in Arnor, so.
I don't know. It could be like the telephone game kind of design, like, people
right.
copied it and No, that's a real thing, though. That's a real thing we see in some designs. I can't think of any that come to mind right now. But, look at company logos, so they evolve over time.
Right.
That's only like within this last 2 centuries.
Right.
But
and O'Malley,
over
right,
time, a design will be simplified and changed according to what medium it's in.
Perhaps. I mean, it is true as somebody was pointing out, as V. Pinella was pointing out, of course, the white tree is originally Numenorian, so it's not like a representation of the white tree is like restricted to Gondor. The Arnorians would remember the white tree as well, but yeah, we don't see any evidence of them taking the white tree as their symbol. Well, okay, I should say the only evidence that might suggest it are these 2 things, right? These 2 tree symbols that we see, the one here and the one in Bree. Yeah.
It looks like an interpretation of somebody who's, somebody described the white tree to them, but they'd never seen it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the white tree that we know is symmetrical and very great for like weaving into things. That's a good design for any sort of pattern sequence thing like weaving or knitting or crocheting or anything like that. Well, this sort of loopy guy is better like carved into something.
Right. Yeah, perhaps. Okay, so Pontine says there's deed text connected with the one that you find in Bree, which identifies it as the crest of the ancient kingdom of Arthedain. So that's very interesting.
An Arthedain symbol in a cartolage.
And we know that the ghosts that we just saw, the cursed ghosts, were also Arthedainian guards too. So
true.
The solution to that is obvious, right? This was originally constructed by the people of Cardoin, but of course we know the people of Cardoin were the first ones to fall.
Yes.
And that Rhudaur with their Angmar allies and Arthedain continued to fight after Cardoin had already fallen. So this was originally a city of Cardoin, but after the people of Cardoin were driven out from here and took refuge in the Barrow Downs and were subsequently destroyed, it would make sense, based on the overall archaeological geography that we've been finding here in the Lone Lands. This is on the Arthedainian side of the street, right? So it would make sense that the Arthedainians would take over here, having a stronghold here, or rather taking advantage of the stronghold that was here after the people of Cardoin had left.
Hence all the soldiery ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. Hence all the soldiery ghosts. And it would make sense that and if, as we are theorizing, the rising of the water level happened at the time of the departure, right, was part of what drove them out. So hang on. So Emmeline here, the ghost. I'm trying to look at him.
He has such a pretty name.
Yes, he does. Sorry.
Wow, that was fearsome sounding.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
Sudden sneeze.
I thought that was ghosty noises coming from the machine.
Yeah, exactly. Practically. I'm trying to see if he has any markings on his armor. All I see is this sort of swell on his shoulder. Thank you for turning around. That's very helpful. No, but nothing. I didn't see anything on his back. He's got very little in the way of markings on him. It kind of looks like he's got stars on him, but that's just the stars on the tomb we're seeing through his person there, his semi-corporeal person. I feel really bad that he doesn't have a lower jaw, as of course they never really seem to do. But I guess that's just part of it, you know.
That's always the first thing to go on a soldier.
Yeah, the lower jaw, and then
the lower jaw.
You know, the teeth. Okay, so.
Yeah, he's rather unmarked on the back too.
Yeah, he seems to be completely unmarked on the back. All right, so let's keep going. So we have reason to think that there's connections clearly constructed by the people of Cardolan, and yet connections to Arthedain as well, which is makes total sense. Mm-hmm. So we go over here to the shoulder of the hill, and we've got some walls down there, but again, no construction of any kind up here on the hill, right? Which you'd think would be kind of the point. Ooh, what's over here?
Well, it depends on how long this has been here. Yeah. I don't remember it either, but here it is, and that would explain why there's nothing up here.
Right, nothing anymore.
I don't think you can get through, though. No.
Yeah.
There's nothing in.
Yeah. Okay. All right,
impediment to expansion.
Let's go for a quick look through the trolls area over here. There's less, of course, in the way of archaeology to be done over here. And the trolls, of course, are comparatively recent arrivals, right?
Yeah, good place for it, though, with the tree cover keeping out the sunlight.
Yeah, and slightly higher ground, as we can see.
Yeah, we got people camping in Harlog with the standing water, but the trolls are like, I ain't gonna do that. There's mosquitoes.
Right, the trolls are staying dry back here. Okay, all right, so I'm wanting to go down into the utmost corner here.
Yeah.
Where the sort of the heart of the trolls' little, area, little realm is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the boss troll, right?
Oh, yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a rare elite.
Yeah. He's a big deal. That guy.
Yeah, he's going to come after some of this.
Yeah. We might have to take care of him.
Yeah, we might. Oh, yeah, too late. Engaged.
I hope we didn't take care of somebody. Okay, you guys might want to bring him down. Okay, what I was interested to see over here, I mean, lots of natural sort of terraced land. This is like a perfect natural location for like a bandit's hold or something like that, right? I wanted to see if there was any evidence back here where the trolls are of any previous construction to see if there's any evidence that there was any activity here earlier. This can't count. This looks like a den, like the trolls probably made this.
Yeah, no, that's just a pile of rocks.
Yeah, this is just a pile of rocks.
Ooh, loot the corpse.
And another pile of rocks. So no.
Pile of rocks. Yeah.
I see no
They're not
evidence.
camping out anywhere.
And here's the other troll.
These are good rocks, though. No wonder they were able to build a big city around here. There's lots of things to use for stone resources.
Lots of good rocks here. Yeah, so interesting. I couldn't remember if there were any ruins of any kind around. Me neither. In this area.
Well, we've seen trolls and goblins camp out in other ruins, so it's not far-fetched.
Exactly. So I wanted to check and see that, but there isn't, and that's...
I think we'll see more of that once we get into the troll shaws.
Yeah. But that's kind of... that's actually really interesting to me that we get nothing of that kind here in this whole area. I don't see any evidence that they were ever in here.
Also, you notice that they're very much not inclined to go into the area where all the ghosts and
Who, the
bloated
trolls?
corpses are. Yeah, the trolls.
Yeah.
Even the trolls are like, I ain't going in there.
Yeah, I don't see anything anywhere around here. Did anybody
No
else
totems
see any
either.
ruins? Yeah.
No totems, no flags. Nothing pledging their allegiance to anything.
Just free floating trolls. But it suggests that, it suggests that neither the people of Cardoon nor the people of Arthedain ever used this place, which you'd think, this is a, defensive fortification dream down here.
Yeah, no, it's pretty,
Yeah, and scenic, right? Defensible and also scenic. So it's just kind of, so what I would take from that then, right? Trying to then reconstruct the story, that would seem to confirm that the original Cardoon construction here was not a thought I could get through there. Not a fort. See, maze-like, right? That's what I'm talking about. Labyrinthine, these ruins.
Yes.
Not a fortification, but a city, right?
Yes.
They didn't come down into this valley and say, what is the most impenetrable, most perfectly defensible spot? Because if they had, it would obviously be where the trolls were back in that back corner, right? Mm-hmm. Instead, they built their city out here largely on the plain and right in the dead middle, right? Like they came...
also against the canyon wall,
Goblin.
I guess. Goblin what?
Goblin. Live
goblin.
Goblin. Yeah.
No way!
There's a live goblin down here.
Oh, no, that's a Tarkip orc.
Yeah, it's goblin-ish. It's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
We must know if it's Arthedanian or Carolingian, but orc and goblin, same thing.
Orc or goblin, yeah, exactly. Who cares? Right. So this, possibly some kind of like palace or something up there on the main bluff overlooking the main sort of city down here. But yeah, so like they came down the middle of this valley and were like, let's build it overlooking this beautiful valley, right? Which presumably, again, was not flooded or filled with bog or bog filled with corpses at the time. So it was a beautiful valley, and so they built their city down here. And then, of course, when the Arthedanian folks came down here, they were like, we don't need to build another fortification here, because they weren't needing to fort up down here. They had plenty of forts, right, up at the top.
Oh, yeah.
So, up along the road, right, more sort of useful forts. And so they seem to have manned the spots down here where the city of the people of Cardoon were after they'd already been driven out. Again, I'm still speculating.
More to keep the riffraff out.
Right. Still speculating, possibly, with the raising of the water into the bog here. But so that would explain why they never built into the more fortified and difficult to attain. But if this were the place where the men of Cardoon had come to fort up for their last stand, they clearly would have built back up. Honestly, that would be an even better place to defend than the Barrow Downs, right? Mm-hmm.
Also thinking in terms of centuries here, it's like, were those trees always there?
Right.
Was that always an ideal place for trees to grow?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even just the land itself, the way that the land is set is, of course, it's getting dark now. Can't see the ruins from here anymore. But yeah, you can just kind of see how from here, from this end of the valley, that city would have looked beautiful, right? At the far end, underneath the southern hills there and everything. Yeah. So I'm thinking this was a city of the people of Cardoon. It was a peaceful city when it was first, built to be defensible, but not built primarily as a fortification. But then they had to flee, and they obviously fled entirely out of the Harloweg, right? They didn't just retreat back to where the forest was, or maybe it wasn't forest, but back into the hills in the corner and fort up there, they fled the valley entirely, which leads you to think that probably the raising of the water level and possibly the invasion of the Unquiet Dead also happened at about that time.
Well, keep in mind that the Unquiet Dead might have been the people who had suffered at the hands of
also
Rudar.
True. Yeah, also true that the Unquiet Dead might have been a consequence rather than a cause of the departure of the people of Cardolan and the defeat of the people of Cardolan. Yeah, cool. All right, so I think we have a working story. See, this is to me the point of in-game archaeology, right? Is to do the archaeology in order to come up with an interesting story. Sort of world-building, speculative backstory that they are inventing, or at least that we are speculating that they invented. I think it works. If it's not what they were thinking, that is the Lotro developers, then they should have. So if the developers tell me that I'm completely wrong in my interpretation, I will only accept their interpretation if their story is cooler than mine. If my story is cooler than theirs, then I will insist that they're wrong and I'm right. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, you talk about J.K. Rowling, but I can tell you most creators, you go up to them and say, I'm so happy that you intended this and this and this to happen with this and this and that. Most of them will stare blankly for a minute and then go, yes, that thing you just said, I totally meant that.
Exactly. So yeah. If ever the Lotro developers need to give a historical explanation for what was going on in the Lone Lands, I've got their backs. Cool. All right. So next time we will move up into Gartha Garwin. It's time to explore Gartha Garwin, and then we'll move over towards the last bridge. We've kind of skipped Gartha Garwin, but we should do that. Of course, Gartha Garwin, the whole story, it's a complicated story, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I mostly want to see from the physical remains what we can see up there and how they've kind of depicted things. But anyway, thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. I know it's getting late now, so we're going to sign off here. Thanks for joining me on our exploration of the Harlow Egg. Thanks, everybody, for coming to class. And as always, for your donations and support during our annual fundraising campaign. I hope that you will still, if you haven't gotten a chance yet, still consider giving a small donation to help Signum carry on doing what we do. Our fundraising campaign still goes another week and a half from here. So thanks very much, everybody. And I will see you guys next week, the day after I come home from Kansas City, and hopefully I'll be less sick. So
God willing.
Thanks very much, everybody. Good night now.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me on this epic exploration of The Lord of the Rings and of Standing Stone's video adaptation of Tolkien's story. If you are having even half the fun I'm having on this journey, I hope you will consider supporting the project by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.